Hey, what's up guys, my name is Cherno and welcome to episode 111 of Game Programming, 111. Let's go, a lot of episodes. It has been a while, I'm sorry about that, but I've got exams going on at university now, and I'm only making episodes when I can, which is pretty much the case all the time. But anyway, let's get on with this. So, we're going to talk more about fonts today, and hopefully finish up with all the font stuff today. So we've got this thing that I told you guys last time. It says gamey. But the idea is that there's two problems here. Honestly, there's literally just two problems here. First one is the fact that we've got this pink background, but the more pressing one is the fact that this G just doesn't, and the Y doesn't really look natural, right? Because they should be dropped a bit. The actual I don't know, I'm not like a font kind of artist, so I don't know what they're called, but the lower end of G and Y should be below the baseline, right? So, how are we going to fix that? It's actually probably more simple than you guys think. We're going to check to see what character we're rendering, and if it's a character which happens to have a lower half, we just simply drop it a bit. So, how does that work? Well, the character, that we obviously know what character we're going to render. Okay, it's called current car. Now, the way that I do this right now with X as well is I simply render it at I add to the X, I kind of add an offset that's I times 16, okay? It's the current character that we're rendering along. But what I'm going to do for the Y is add an actual Y offset variable, okay? So this is going to be the offset in pixels that we just move our character in the Y axis, okay? This is also going to work with a cool little thing we'll add in the future. Actually, well, in this episode, so we're going to hopefully finish off fonts. But you guys will see that in a second. I'll also add an X offset as well because we might use that later. Okay, awesome. So this Y offset, when is it going to take effect and how's it going to work? Well, currently we've got Y, of course, and then we'll obviously have a Y offset. Okay, so what will Y offset be? Well, the best way to probably change Y offset is, first of all, I'm actually going to drop Y offset and X offset into, probably not X offset, but Y offset at least. I'm actually going to drop into this for loop, okay? Because I want it to apply to each character individually, not to all of the characters, okay? And what I'll simply do is I'll say that if the current character is, for example, let's say it's a Y or a G, right? So G or Y, obviously there's a lot more like P and Q and stuff, but we'll add those in later. Then what's going to happen is I'm simply going to drop the Y offset by probably about, let's see, I'll probably set it to be about 16. I really don't know. We're going to play around with this. So let's save that and let's run it and see what happens. Okay, so 16 was way too much. 16 was actually the size of our things, but you can see that it's kind of working, right? All I'll do is I'll probably change it to be more like 4. That seems probably about perfect, actually. Maybe 3. How's 3? 3.5 would be good, but we can't do that. So I'll probably just round up and go with 4. Okay, awesome. So that's problem 1 fixed, okay? Let's try and go back to gamey here, and let's put up every single character. We'll keep an A there for reference, but we'll put every single character that has that little thing going on. So P, J, Q, what else is there? Is that it? P, J, Q. Oh, things like commas, full stop. That'll probably be it for now. So if we run this and render it, we can see that commas are also, they're above and they kind of look weird, and same with the other ones. So what we'll do is we might have to treat commas and like full stops, periods, whatever, separately. Hopefully not though. So if current car equals, let's say, so what was it, Q, or comma, we'll do them later. P is also the other one that I was thinking of. P, I think, oh, and J. We should probably do these in alphabetical order, but oh well. J, or comma, or full stop. So it's quite a long if statement. You might want to divide this up into 2. So let's just save this though. Go back. Okay. Yeah, so stuff like, see, the full stop's way too low, right? It's not supposed to be that low. So we'll have to tweak that. In fact, I don't think the full stop actually needs to change. The comma does, but I don't think the full stop does. So I'm actually going to remove the full stop. Or if you're from America, it's called period. But I'll get rid of that. Okay. Oh, wait. Did I get rid of the comma as well? Did not mean to do that. Okay, so we'll get rid of the full stop. Alright, fantastic. So, this is, I think that's pretty much perfect. It's a bit hard to see because of the pink background, so let's remove that, okay? Again, the way that we remove that is very, very simple. We simply go into render sprite, okay? I'll probably add an alpha kind of thing, you know, if we want to use alpha or not. I'll actually set it to be an int. That won't be nice. One of the things that we've done, and you guys might have, no, let me not full screen that because I can't. But one of the things that we've done, and you guys probably noticed this, is because we've obviously dealt with that before. We always had this if color equals that. Then we've got an alpha channel. So this is all hard coded in. We never set it to a variable. Okay, and that's just because this is the way this engine is going to work. If you did want to be really cool, you'd probably just do something like alpha color. Okay, and you would make a private final int here called alpha. Whoops. Called alpha color and set it equal to that. Okay, and we might just do that. Okay, just so it makes sense what we're doing as well when you're actually reading the code. So we'll set everywhere we have that, which is over here and here, we'll just set it equal to alpha color, and here, and that's probably it. Yep. Okay, awesome. So for our render sprite, which is the one that we're doing, we'll just check to see if color doesn't equal alpha color, then we'll render. Okay, and we obviously need to actually grab color. I call it color just because it's the color of the actual pixel that we're rendering at the moment, right? You could call it pixel, but you know, I've already got an array called pixels and you might get confused, so I call it color. But what that represents, of course, in case you guys don't know, is the actual color of the pixel we're about to render. So we check that color and we say, if that color is a color that we shouldn't render, just don't render that particular pixel. And thus, of course, it won't change the existing pixel, and you'll see the stuff behind it, okay, so to speak. Even though there isn't actually anything behind it, it's just not going to change the color of the pixel from like brown or whatever the floor color is. That being said, we should get rid of that stuff now. Good. Now, one thing that's kind of wrong here as well is the purple. Now, there's two ways we could deal with it. Probably the preferable way to maintain integrity is to actually get rid of it in the file, so make it only be a pink background. Alternatively, you could just simply check for that color as well, okay, which is 7F007F, which is exactly half, what was it, half red and half blue, right? Simple as that. That being said, I added one extra zero. That being said, we probably will leave that just here, just for fun. So if we launch that, you'll see that it will. Damn it. Okay. Change that to an and. We'll see that we'll actually get rid of that, and it'll work nicely. But yeah, again, it's up to you what you want to do. Okay. It'd probably be better to remove it from the file because otherwise you'd have to add another variable that says alpha color 2. Okay. Or you'd have to play around with, you can't really OR them together, so that wouldn't work either. Okay, anyway, that being said, we're done here. So let's go ahead and actually write a proper sentence to see if this works. So, hey guys, my name is the Cherno. So we've got plenty of Y's, we've got commas, we've got a full stop at the end. Okay. Alright, so apart from the fact that it went off the screen, that looks pretty good. Okay, there's some alignment issues you can see. Like the Y is probably a bit too low, or the G is, like that Y looks fine. So again, you can play around with this by yourselves. I think that's pretty good. One thing I do want to add, there's two things that I want to add that we have left to do in this episode, okay? And that is what I talked about with the X offset, okay? So I'm gonna actually make another way that you guys can render text, okay? There's one where you just put in the text on the screen. That is the bare minimum way that you do it, okay? Oh, in fact, we aren't even specifying a position yet, okay? So that shouldn't be possible at all, okay? So in X and in Y, okay, which will replace these two. So that'll be the base kind of way. Okay, and this won't have an X offset. Now, well, it will because we'll use the different method. You guys will see in a minute. But let's grab this, right? And we'll add another parameter here called spacing, okay? And the spacing will just be how far apart the characters actually are. So let's delete that. The spacing, okay, will be applied right now to the X offset, right? And then what we'll have to do is the spacing, of course, is determined by this. So the spacing should be 16 by default, but we don't want it to be 16. As in, we don't want to have to specify a spacing of 16 because the spacing of 0 should be the default, which is 16. So what we'll do is we'll simply say 16 plus spacing. In fact, we don't even need the X offset variable, okay? 16 plus spacing, all right? And that will enable us to actually control the exact spacing. That being said, we don't need to duplicate this method because that would be quite bad, because if we change something here, we'll have to change it here as well. So what I'll do is I'll get rid of that completely and just simply call the render function with the spacing parameter being 0, okay? And that's it. Everything else will take the parameters from this method. Okay, fantastic. So let's go back to game. We now have to specify something like 50-50. That will work, but let's actually specify a spacing of about -4 to bring the characters closer together and make them friends. There we go. So that's closer together. You can see that might be a bit too much, so we might put it to like -3 or something. But the idea is we now have this ability to kind of play around with how far apart the characters actually are. So we could set this to be something like 10, and they would be, as you can see, very far apart. So you can play around with that, and that's probably nice. Now, one thing that I really wanted to do, okay, is occasionally, sometimes we want the ability to draw a kind of a big line of text, okay? So we basically want to maybe write a paragraph and display it on the screen. Right now, the only way we can do that is, for example, if I want to separate these two, maybe at the point where it says my name, because then it trails off the screen. I don't want that. So we'll say that after this, I want this to be on a new line. So what I'll have to do right now is simply copy and paste this, right? And then put this in here. Let's get rid of all this spacing. And then drop this down. Well, we know that it's 16, so I'll drop it down probably about, well, I guess that much, right? So I'll put it to 66. So if I render this now, we'll get 2 lines, okay? That might be not enough as well, so I might drop it down. Let's just say 20, okay? There we go. So that's kind of the deal right now. That doesn't really look good in code, okay? It's like, hey guys, my name is the Cherno. Like, it's really not nice to write that. So what we want to do is we want to kind of be able to keep it in the same render call, but somehow make it do a new line, maybe when we hit a new line character, okay? So right now, if I launch this, it's just not going to do anything because it's going to not find that character. But what I want the new line character to actually do is to drop it to a new line, right? So let's make it do that, okay? If the current character were to equal a new line, which is of course a \n, we want to just simply add 16, or set the Y offset to be 16, or well actually 20, so that it looks a bit nicer. Okay, if you guys implement, I'm not going to do this personally, but if you guys do implement stuff like the size of fonts, so you might want to specify font size like 16 or 20, and it'll actually render it at that particular scale. You'll of course have to tweak this so that it makes sense with the scale. I'm not going to do that just because it's not needed yet. It will be in the future, and I'll probably cover that. But again, this series is really big. There's so many things there is to cover, so I can't go and complete everything. This isn't a series on how to make a text rendering engine. Okay. But the idea is, well, I really wanted to add the new line character because it just makes so much sense. So it will drop the offset by 20. Now that's not good enough, okay? That's not good enough because, and I'll show you why. Because right now what we have here is, hey guys, my name is, and then the new line, my name, and then is a Cherno, okay? What will happen here It'll partially work, I guess. Actually, it won't work at all. Let's get rid of the other instance I had. So let's go back to render for a second. Y offset. Are we rendering based on that? We are indeed. Y plus Y offset. If the current character equals a new line, let's just make sure we didn't screw anything up here. No, that looks good. Let's go back here and see what happens. So we don't actually get... this is going to be impossible to say. Let's do something like this. Hey, bro. Okay. So what's going to happen here? There we go. No new line. Why does that happen? Let's go back into render and find out. Whoops, that is the wrong render method. Font.render. So it doesn't take a genius to find out that the problem is because it's only going to apply to this current character. Okay. So that's why this Y offset, we kind of need to take out sometimes. I don't want to do it that way because we do use Y offset for here and it only wants to apply to one character. So what I'll do is I'll make another kind of Y offset, which I will call line. Okay, I'll set that equal to 0. Okay, now the line is a very special kind of thing. Okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually add line and then times the, I guess, padding sort of, or the vertical amount. So 20, as I said. So instead of setting the Y offset to 20, which in your head might be the obvious thing to do, that's not really going to work because it's only going to apply for this character. It's not going to render that character at all because it doesn't know what it is. It's going to be -1, right? So it'll go back here and it will just simply set Y offset back to 0 and render the rest as it was. Okay, that's still not good enough though, and I'll show you why. But we'll set line equal to 1. Or actually, we'll just go line plus plus. Okay, so that's the idea. Let's render this now. Okay, that kind of worked. It did drop it down a line, definitely. But we've got this thing where it's kind of not working, right? It's supposed to put the bro back, but it's not. So one more thing I want to explore is what if we add 2 new lines? That will work. Yeah, it will drop a new line. Okay, that's why I added the line plus plus thing, which was in here. Okay, fantastic. So what do we need to do? Well, turns out that putting this back isn't good enough. We can't just simply drop the line and expect it to work. What we actually have to do is grab the X value of the B, in this case, and put it back to the start, okay? That's why we need an X offset variable that I kind of hinted at before. So we'll set that equal to 0, okay? X offset, right, will be X offset, every time we render a character, okay, X offset will basically we'll add this to X offset, okay? And then we'll just go plus X offset. So every time we render a character, we're going to grab X offset and we're going to add that much to it, okay? 16 plus spacing, okay? That's cool. And then we're going to, so let's just make sure this works. Yeah, it does. Fantastic. When we do hit a new line character, we want to advance the line. And we want to do one more important thing, and that is the X offset, we want to reset back to 0, okay? Let's render this now. Look at that. Fantastic, okay? Let's go back to game, get rid of that second new line character, and there you have it. Hey, bro, okay? That's really useful, okay? Because if I want to write a long sentence like my name or hey, what's up? Guys, my name is the Cherno. Alright, if I want to do something like that, and I'll be like, oh, well, actually, you know, maybe after the, like before the up or something, I want to make a new line, and then maybe again here. I can do that really easily without having to duplicate this this statement, and you can see it will work. Okay, good. That's awesome. Fantastic. So we've got text rendering working really well, which is good. I was gonna leave it there, but actually I've just decided I want one more thing. Okay. This is kind of a major thing, but I want to be able to pick the color easily, okay? So that being said, we know that the base color is black. That's cool. But the problem is really with render sprite, okay? We're going to copy and paste render sprite. We're going to call it render text character, okay? It's going to be largely the same, as you can see, okay? Except for one important thing. We'll actually have a color. So we'll just say in color, maybe over here. Okay, this color will actually be what we kind of put here. okay? Now, there's several different ways we could do this, okay? Right now, we could really kind of skip the entire process and do it pretty easily, okay? We just simply set color here, okay? Let's try and run that and see what happens. So I'll call render text character and get rid of this stuff. Okay, so we'll need one more parameter, of course, after the thing here, which is the color. So for example, I'll just set it equal to, well, white. Okay. Have I messed up the order? In sprite, in boolean, in sprite. Oh, what did I do? I forgot the comma. Thought so. All right, so if we run that, okay, that works. Yeah, that's a bit of a cheap way of doing it, but it does work. And if we get rid of the extra alpha channel, it will still work. Okay, and using that, of course, we can set it to anything we want. So if I want a bit of a darker kind of white, so just like a bit of a gray, I guess, I can set it to that. If I want it to be a dark kind of red, well, not a dark red, but a fairly dark red, medium kind of red, we can do that as well. So you can play around with this and you can do it that way. Now, of course, we don't want this to be hard-coded. We want it to be a parameter. So I'll set this thing to say color, and then up here in spacing, int color. Now, if we don't specify a color, it will simply adopt black for us, okay? And then finally, just to make it a bit easier, sometimes we want spacing but no color. So I'll change this. So here we are specifying color, but no spacing. And then sometimes we want to specify spacing, but no color. So the color will be black by default. Okay, so we've got a few different ways to do this. This isn't actually going to work. You might have noticed that because they're both integers and it doesn't know which one's which. So for this, I'm going to say we have to choose, okay? And I'll probably say spacing is pretty important, but I'm going to say color is going to win over that, okay? So we've got a few different methods. We could just chuck on an extra parameter, by the way, and make the other one work, but I'm not going to bother with that. Okay, that's font rendering to the absolute extreme. We can do anything we want with it now. This is trailing off. We can drop it down a line. We can change the color. We can change the spacing, and we can render whatever font we want. Okay, the only thing you can't do is scaling. Okay, and I'm not going to implement that until it's very, very, very heavily needed. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Game Programming. Now, if you want to support me so that I make more of these videos, I do have a Patreon page, okay? I don't really advertise this very often, but I do have one of these. You guys can basically pledge. It's kind of like Kickstarter, but you guys pledge per video instead. So you can give like $1. You can, if you don't have $1, you can actually give 50 cents. You can give as much money as you want per video. Based on how much money you give, you get certain perks, of course. The idea is, of course, every time I put out a video, Patreon charges you the amount that you pledge. In response, you get certain rewards, and of course, I get that money so that I can spend more time making these videos. If you want to learn directly from me, so if these tutorials aren't enough for you and you guys just want to accelerate your learning, I do offer private tutoring, okay? You guys can basically just fill out this form, hit submit, it'll send me an email, and I'll catch up with you, and we will discuss a time and make a booking for me to teach you privately. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Next time we're actually going to talk about sprite rotation. Been very heavily requested. One more thing I actually wanted to talk about is my forums, okay? Because it's a pretty active place. I'm nowhere near as active as I would like to be. That's why I've got two awesome moderators, Andy Solis and Crazy Ruski. Thanks for, I guess, those people being awesome and agreeing to moderate my forums. But the idea is that if you guys are having any kind of problems with game programming, 3D game programming, network shape programming, anything really, or you just want to find someone to collaborate with on making games, or you want to show off your awesome game, talk about anything in the off-topic area, this is a great place to do it, okay? Particularly if you have problems with game programming, okay? And if you guys request features and stuff like video request sprite rotation, this is where I got the idea from. I said I'll probably do sprite rotation next, okay? So the idea is, if you guys want me to do something, if you want to discuss problems you might have, then the forums are an absolutely fantastic place to do that, okay? And so next video, we will be doing sprite rotation. And I didn't actually say this at 1 AM. But the point is that next video, we will do sprite rotation, and it'll be a lot of fun because a lot of people think it's really hard, but it's really not. So I'll see you guys next time, which will hopefully be later this week. Goodbye.